How could one tiny destroyer achieve what entire fleets struggled to do, wipe out 6 submarines in just 12 days in the dark waters of the Pacific? A single ship defied every expectation, shattered Japanese naval strategy, and proved that math, not firepower, wins wars. This is the unbelievable story that left the Japanese Navy stunned, and a brand new kind of story on our channel you won't want to miss. At 01:50 May 19th, 1944, the ocean was black, silent, and endless. Inside the cramped Combat Information Center of the USS England, Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton stared at the sonar screen as a contact appeared, 6 knots moving steady, beneath the dark waters north of Bougainville. He was 37 years old, on his first war patrol as a commanding officer with 0 kills to his name. Not one submarine yet. Out there in the darkness, the Imperial Japanese Navy had laid a trap. 7 submarines spread in a wide scouting line across the route to the Marianas, a silent wall beneath the sea. And somewhere in that line was I-16. The USS England wasn't a massive warship. She was a Buckley-class destroyer escort, 77 feet shorter than a fleet destroyer, lean, tight, built for one purpose: hunting submarines. Half her crew existed for that mission. But what truly made her dangerous sat on her forward deck, 24 spigot mortars lined up like teeth. The British gave it a strange name: Hedgehog. It didn't roar like traditional weapons. It didn't shake the ocean. It simply struck. Instead of dropping explosives behind the ship like depth charges, Hedgehog fired forward 200 yards ahead in a circular pattern, precise and controlled. Each projectile carried 35 pounds of Torpex fitted with contact fuses. No explosion unless it hit something solid. For decades, navies had relied on depth charges. Roll them off the stern, guess the depth, wait, and hope. But the war had already exposed the truth. It was a gamble. Over 5,000 depth charge attacks had produced only 85 kills, 1 success for every 60 attempts. By the time the charges sank, the submarine had already moved. Worse, the explosions churned the ocean so violently that sonar went blind for 15 minutes. 15 minutes where the hunter couldn't see and the hunted slipped away. Hedgehog changed that. No massive explosions, no disturbance. If it missed, it made no sound at all. Sonar contacts stayed locked. Continuous tracking, continuous pressure, no escape in the chaos. But there was a problem, trust. Early tests showed only a 5% success rate. Crews didn't believe in it. Captains preferred the old way: the thunder, the violence, the reassurance of hearing something explode, even if it meant nothing. But Pendleton wasn't like that. He trusted numbers. Cold, simple math. 1 kill for every 5 Hedgehog attacks versus 1 kill for every 80 with depth charges. To him, this wasn't a gamble. It was probability. 4 days earlier, Fleet Radio Unit Pacific had cracked a message: Japanese submarine, I-16, destination Bougainville. Arrival 2200 hours, May 19th. The intelligence was perfect, almost too perfect. So Pendleton made his move. He and 2 sister ships positioned themselves directly along the submarine's path. They didn't chase. They waited like predators. And now the sonar ping was real, alive, moving, closing. Somewhere below them, steel, cut through watermen, inside silent, unaware, or maybe already listening back. Pendleton didn't blink. Hold contact. The room felt tight-hot. Even breathing sounded loud. Every man knew this wasn't just another attack. This was a test of a weapon, of a commander, of trust. Because in the next few minutes, they were about to find out if Hedgehog actually worked against a real Japanese submarine. And what happened next was something no one on that ship would ever forget. Do you think RO-106 can keep dodging in the darkness? Or is Pendleton already one step ahead, calculating every move and closing in for the kill hit? Like, if you think the Americans have the advantage, subscribe to the channel and stay with me, because what happens next in this deadly hunt is about to get even more intense. Back to Pendleton. The sonar operator called out the range 1,500 yards. Below them, I-16 was already diving, making sharp turns and changing depth. The Japanese commander knew he was being hunted. At 13:41, Pendleton ordered the first Hedgehog attack. 24 projectiles arced out, splashed into the Pacific, and sank fast. Then silence. A miss. I-16 had already turned away. The second attack followed quickly. One detonation at 130 feet lifted England's bow, but it wasn't enough. The third attack missed. Then the fathometer revealed the problem. I-16 had gone deeper, down to 325 feet. Pendleton adjusted. The fourth attack followed another miss as the submarine turned inside the pattern, time 14:33. Then came the fifth attack. 4 detonations, then 6 more, and suddenly a massive underwater explosion. The blast lifted England's stern clear out of the water, knocking sailors off their feet. 20 minutes later, debris surfaced, oil wood fabric. I-16 was gone. 107 men lost beneath the Pacific. But the mission wasn't over. Fleet radio. Unit Pacific had decoded another message. 7 more Japanese submarines were waiting in a patrol line north of the Admiralty Islands, and England was heading straight toward them. At Tulagi, Commander Hamilton Haines received the intelligence. The Japanese 7th Submarine Squadron had deployed 7 RO-class submarines, RO-104, RO-105, RO-106, RO-108, RO-109, RO-112, RO-116, each carrying 56 men. Their mission: detect American carriers moving toward the Marianas or Palau. Admiral Toyota needed eyes on the ocean. These submarines were his eyes. Haines ordered England to join George and Raby. 3 ships, 7 targets. The odds seemed impossible, but Pendleton had already proven something: 5 Hedgehog attacks, 1 kill. A 20% success rate. The weapon worked, and now the crew believed in it. The hunter-killer group left Purvis Bay on May 21st, moving in a line abreast formation 16,000 yards apart. Radar swept every 30 seconds. Sonar never stopped pinging. The Japanese submarines had gone silent. No more transmissions, no more easy intelligence. From here on, it was pure hunting. Pendleton studied the charts. The Japanese had placed their submarines along routes Americans had used before, predictable patterns. But they didn't know the Americans already knew where the line was. The only question was timing. Submarines followed a rhythm surface at night dive, at dawn stay, submerged through the day. That created a narrow window. On the surface, they were vulnerable, but fast, able to dive in 60 seconds and disappear within minutes. But England's crew was ready. Sonar tracked every movement, speed, depth, direction. Hedgehog launchers could fire in 90 seconds, sending 24 projectiles into a tight pattern. No explosion meant a miss. Any detonation meant a hit. The math was brutal. 7 submarines, 56 men each, 392 sailors. One attack could erase them in seconds. At 0350 on May 22nd, Georgia's radar picked up a contact at 15,000 yards. RO-106 on the surface recharging. A searchlight snapped on, exposing her. Instantly, she crash dived. Ballast tanks flooded. The bow dropped. Within 90 seconds, she was gone. At 4:15, George fired Hedgehog. 24 projectiles hit the water. Silence. A miss. At 0425, England regained sonar contact range 1,400 yards. RO-106 was deep now, maneuvering hard, turning sharply, changing depth. The Japanese commander was skilled, forcing the Americans to guess. But Pendleton didn't guess. His sonar operator tracked everything in real time, feeding constant data into the firing solution. The first attack missed. RO-106 had turned just 30 degrees during the 9 seconds it took the projectiles to sink. 9 seconds, just enough to move 150 feet and survive. Second attack, 0501. 24 projectiles spread in a perfect circle and vanished into the dark. Then 3 detonations followed by a massive underwater explosion. The shockwave rolled across the surface, England's hull shuddering as George and Raby felt it from 4,000 yards away. At sunrise, the ocean revealed the result, a half-mile wide oil slick debris scatter metalwood, nothing alive. Kill number 2. Within 24 hours of I-16, the 3 destroyer escorts reformed their line 16,000 yards apart, pushing northeast along the NAA line. Another submarine was waiting, RO-104, RO-105, or one of the remaining 5. The Japanese stayed silent, but their routine didn't change. They had to surface, batteries needed charging, engines needed air. At 600 on May 23rd, Raby's radar picked up a contact at 22,000 yards. It dove immediately. This commander had learned stay deep force the Americans to guess. Raby attacked first with 4 Hedgehog runs, starting at 00-617. All missed. RO-104 kept turning inside the patterns. George followed 4 more attacks between July 17th and August 10th. All misses. The Japanese captain was skilled, slipping away every time. Then England moved in. 2 kills already. No wasted chances. Haynes watched the pattern and gave the order that would become legend. Oh, hell, go ahead, England. Pendleton's first attack missed as the submarine turned again. But at 0834, the second attack hit 10 detonations, maybe 12. The explosions merged into one continuous roar. Then came the sounds no one survives, metal-tearing bulkheads collapsing. 3 minutes later, a final explosion. The batteries ruptured. By 10:45, oil and debris surfaced. Kill number 3. 72 hours, 3 submarines, 163 men gone, and still 4 targets remained. At 1:20 on May 24th, Georgia's radar picked up RO-116 on the surface at 15,000 yards. She dove within minutes. By 0150, England had sonar contact. The pattern repeated, detect, dive, track, attack. But this time, the enemy changed tactics. RO-116 stayed shallow 150 feet. most submarines dove deep for protection. This commander did the opposite, turning sharply, betting the Americans would aim too deep. He bet wrong. Pendleton's sonar team caught the shallow depth instantly. The firing solution adjusted. At 0214, England fired. 3 detonations, maybe 5. No massive blast, just the sound of projectiles punching through steel. Small holes, fatal ones. Water rushed in, pressure built, the hull groaned. The submarine sank deeper and deeper. Within minutes, it was over. By 7:02, oil and debris surfaced. The slick spread for miles. 56 more sailors gone. Kill number 4. 5 days. 4 submarines destroyed. Word reached Admiral Ernest King in Washington. He read the reports: 1 destroyer escort, 4 kills, using a weapon most captains didn't trust. His reply was simple: "There'll always be an England in the United States Navy." The phrase spread across the Pacific within hours. England was becoming a legend. But fame brought attention, and attention meant new orders were already on the way. Where are you watching from right now? America, the UK, Canada, Australia, the Philippines, India, or somewhere else? Drop your country and city in the comments. Hit like if this story has you hooked, and subscribe to the channel, because USS England's unbelievable hunt is only getting more intense. On May 25th, Admiral Halsey made a decision. England had done enough. 4 kills in 5 days had turned her into one of the most effective anti-submarine ships in the Pacific. Crews like hers were rare, and losing one would be a strategic mistake. His order was clear: pull England off the line and assign her to carrier escort duty. Safer, smarter, protect the asset. But Commander Haynes refused. 3 submarines were still out there: RO-105, RO-108, RO-109, holding the NA line. If England left now, the mission would remain unfinished, and those submarines would continue reporting American fleet movements. The intelligence advantage would vanish. Haynes trusted the numbers: 4 kills in 5 days. Give England 3 more days and she could finish the job. Halsey hesitated, then agreed. 1 more patrol. At 23:03 on May 26th, Raby's radar picked up a contact 15,000 yards away, 110 nautical miles northeast of Seattler Harbor. RO-108. The submarine dove immediately, slipping beneath the surface before it could be fully identified. Minutes later, England locked sonar contact at 1,650 yards. Below them, the Japanese commander made a critical mistake. He stayed shallow and executed aggressive turns, believing he could outmaneuver the Americans. But Pendleton's crew had already fought 4 submarines. They didn't react, they anticipated. Every turn, every depth change, every pattern was already familiar. Raby moved in first, launching a Hedgehog attack. 24 projectiles entered the water silence. A miss. RO-108 slipped away again, turning sharply, trying to break contact. Then came the calm voice over the radio: "Haynes, steady and certain, go ahead, England." At 23:23, Pendleton gave the order. 24 projectiles launched forward, arcing through the night before disappearing into the sea. Seconds passed. Then 4 detonations, maybe 6. So close together they blended into one continuous udar. There was no gradual flooding this time, no time to react. The pressure hull failed instantly. RO-108 imploded under the crushing force of the ocean. 56 men died in less than 3 seconds, faster than thought itself. Kill number 5. 6 days. 5 submarines destroyed. 279 men gone. In Tokyo, Admiral Suwemu Toyota read the reports in silence. 7 submarines deployed. 5 missing. No distress calls. No emergency signals. Just absence. 1 submarine lost every 24 hours. The pattern was undeniable. Something was hunting his fleet, fast, precise, impossible to evade. Toyota acted immediately. New orders were transmitted to the last 2 submarines, RO-105 and RO-109. Dive deeper, minimum 400 feet. Surface only when absolutely necessary. Recharge batteries sparingly. And above all, run silent at first detection. No more violent maneuvers. Noise was the enemy. Noise meant death. The Japanese were adapting, but they were adapting too late, learning from the destruction of crews who never survived to report what had happened. Meanwhile, England, George, and Raby pushed northeast along the NA line. 2 submarines remained somewhere within 3,000 square miles of open ocean. The Americans still held the advantage. Fleet radio, Unit Pacific, continued intercepting Japanese communications. Every transmission revealed a position. Every position revealed a pattern. But the hunt was changing. The enemy would now be quieter, more cautious, harder to detect. And England had a new problem: ammunition. Each Hedgehog attack used 24 projectiles. 5 successful engagements meant 120 rounds expended. Out of 240 total, only 120 remained. 5 more attacks, maybe 6 if every shot counted. No room for error, no wasted opportunities. Because somewhere out there, in the vast, empty Pacific, the last 2 submarines were waiting. And this time, they were ready. On May 30th, at 21:45, George detected RO-105 on radar. The submarine dove immediately, but this time the Japanese commander changed tactics. He went deep 400 feet, then shut everything down. No engines, no propellers, no vibration, total silence. When England established sonar contact at 2,200 yards, the signal was weak and intermittent. The submarine was barely moving. Sonar operators called it a patch of disturbed water, creating false returns. RO-105 could be anywhere within 200 yards of that ghost signal. Pendleton faced a decision fire at a weak contact and likely miss, wasting 24 precious projectiles, or wait, surrender the initiative and let the enemy choose when to move. He chose to wait. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 4. The ocean remained silent. At 2:30 on May 31st, the signal strengthened. RO-105 was moving again. Her batteries were nearly exhausted. The commander had no choice. He had to act. But he had one last gamble. At 3:15, RO-105 surfaced, but not where the Americans expected. During those 4 silent hours, the submarine had drifted 3 miles with the current. George's radar picked her up at 13,000 yards. Wrong direction, wrong bearing. The hunting group had been searching the wrong grid. By the time England turned, RO-105 had already crash-dived again. But the gamble worked. 90 seconds on the surface, 90 seconds of diesel engines, just enough to recharge, just enough to run. At 03:45, England regained sonar, Contact. R0105 was deep and moving fast. 6 knots heading northeast. This commander was different. He had studied the previous attacks. He knew the pattern. Stay deep, move fast, break the mathematics, because now the battle had become pure calculation. Hedgehog projectiles sank at 23 feet per second. At 400 feet, they needed 17 seconds to reach depth. In that time, a submarine moving at 6 knots could travel 170 feet. Every attack depended on predicting the future position. Predict wrong, and the entire pattern missed. Pendleton fired anyway. First attack at 0400 missed by 200 feet. R0105 had turned during descent. Second attack at 0423 missed by 100 feet. Closer, but still wrong. The submarine varied speed constantly, 6 knots, then 4, then 6 again, making prediction nearly impossible. 48 projectiles gone, 72 remaining, 3 more attacks, 3 chances. From George Haynes watched closely. This engagement was different. The previous 5 submarines had died quickly, but R0105 had survived 2 attacks and was still escaping. The Japanese commander was winning until 0447. Pendleton's sonar operator spotted a pattern. Every 4 minutes, R0105 turned 30 degrees to port, then 30 degrees to starboard. Back and forth. Predictable. The commander thought he was being random. But humans aren't random. Pendleton adjusted. He stopped reacting and started predicting. He led the target by 200 feet. At 0508, the third attack launched. 24 projectiles disappeared into the sea. Then 4 detonations, maybe 5. A hit, but not a kill. R0105 was damaged flooding, but still moving. Inside, the crew fought back. Emergency procedures. Blow ballast. Surface. Escape. At 0532, Pendleton fired again. The fourth attack. 24 projectiles. 8 detonations. This time the hull failed. R0105 broke apart. The emergency blow stopped instantly. No one reached the surface. At 6:15 after sunrise, oil and debris appeared. Kill number 6. 12 days. 6 submarines destroyed. 335 Japanese sailors gone. Did anyone in your family ever serve during World War II? Whether in the Navy, Army, Air Force, or even supporting from home? I'd really like to hear where they served and what their story was. Drop it in the comments below. Hit like if this story resonates with you, and subscribe to the channel, because the final chapter of USS England's hunt is about to unfold. Admiral Halsey received the report at 3rd Fleet Headquarters, and for a moment, even he didn't believe it. 6 submarines destroyed in 12 days, 1 destroyer escort, 1 weapon system that most captains still didn't trust. The numbers didn't just look impressive, they looked impossible. Nothing like it had ever been recorded in naval warfare. But 1 submarine still remained, R0109, somewhere out there in the vast Pacific. On June 1st, Halsey made his decision. Pull England out immediately. 6 kills were enough. The ship had already proven everything that needed to be proven. Hedgehog was no longer experimental. It was decisive. Across the Pacific Fleet, orders went out fast. New training programs, new engagement tactics, new firing solutions, all built from England's combat reports. What started as one commander trusting math over instinct was now becoming doctrine for an entire navy. R0109 was never found. After receiving Admiral Toyoda's warning following the destruction of RO-108, she abandoned her patrol line without hesitation. No last stand, no attempt to continue the mission. She went deep silent and slipped away toward Truk, disappearing into the vast ocean. She would survive the war, surrendering in August 1945. Only then did her crew learn what had happened. 6 sister submarines gone. In 12 days, destroyed by a single ship using a weapon they had never even encountered. In July, England received the Presidential Unit Citation, one of only 3 destroyer escorts to earn that honor during the entire war. The official words were simple: for extraordinary heroism in action against enemy Japanese submarines. But the words didn't capture the reality of what had happened. The real story was written in numbers. Across the war, British forces had launched 5,174 depth charge attacks for just 85 confirmed kills, a 1.6% success rate. Hedgehog improved that to about 5% in early use, but many crews still doubted it. Then came England. 6 submarines destroyed in roughly 15 attacks, a 40% success rate, 25 times more effective than depth charges, 8 times better than the average Hedgehog results. It wasn't just improvement, it was proof. By September 1944, Hedgehog became standard across the fleet. Training manuals were rewritten. Sonar operators studied England's tracking methods. Hedgehog crews drilled her loading speed. Fire control officers memorized her predictive firing solutions. In the Atlantic, Hedgehog would sink 47 German U-boats, 268 attacks, 47 kills, a 17.5% success rate. Impressive, but still nowhere near what England achieved. Admiral Halsey received the report at 3rd Fleet headquarters, and for a moment even he didn't believe it. 6 submarines destroyed in 12 days. 1 destroyer escort, 1 weapon system most captains still didn't trust. The numbers didn't just look impressive, they looked impossible. Nothing like it had ever happened before in naval warfare. But 1 submarine still remained, RO-109, somewhere out there in the Pacific. RO-109 was never found. After receiving Admiral Toyoda's warning, she abandoned her patrol line, went deep, and disappeared toward Truk. She survived the war and surrendered in August 1945. Only then did her crew learn the truth. 6 sister submarines destroyed in 12 days by a single ship using a weapon they had never even encountered. After her legendary patrol, England returned to routine duty convoy escort carrier, screening and anti-submarine patrols. She never found another submarine, never fired Hedgehog in combat again. Then on October 31, 1944, a kamikaze aircraft struck her off Leyte Gulf. The bomb tore through the forward engine room. 37 sailors were killed, 25 wounded. The damage was catastrophic. Repairs would take months more than building a new ship. The Navy made a cold decision. England was not worth saving. She was towed to Manus Island, stripped of usable equipment and sold for scrap. In November 1946, she was cut apart. The ship that had destroyed 6 submarines in 12 days ended her life as razor blades and tin cans. But her record survived. More than 80 years later, no ship has matched it. England remains the most successful submarine hunter in naval history. Walton Pendleton survived the war. Promoted to commander, he later led an escort division in Alaska, hunting submarines in the North Pacific. He never found another target. The war ended in August 1945. Pendleton retired in 1961 after 34 years of service and died in 1973 at age 66. His gravestone lists the Navy Cross, but it doesn't mention the 6 submarines. It doesn't mention the 12 days that changed naval warfare forever. The Navy once promised there will always be an England. In a way, they kept it. England continued escort duty through the summer of 1944, moving from convoy protection to carrier screening to anti-submarine patrols. But she never found another target, never fired Hedgehog in combat again. Then, on October 31st, 1944, everything changed. A kamikaze aircraft slammed into her off Leyte Gulf. The bomb tore through the forward engine room, killing 37 sailors and wounding 25 more. The damage was catastrophic, so severe that repairs would take 6 months and cost more than building a new ship. The Navy made a cold, calculated decision. England was not worth saving. She was towed to Manus Island, stripped of anything useful and sold for scrap. In November 1946, she was cut apart in a salvage yard. The ship that had sunk 6 submarines in 12 days ended her life as razor blades and tin cans. But her record survived, and it still stands. More than 80 years later, no ship in any Navy has matched it. England remains the greatest submarine killer in naval history. The Navy kept its promise in a way. In October 1960, a new ship guided missile destroyer leader USS England, DLG-22 later, CG-22 was commissioned. She served from 1962 to 1994, longer than the original ship ever did. But when she was decommissioned, the name England disappeared from the fleet. Admiral King's promise faded. There has been no USS England since 1994. Today, the original Hedgehog launcher sits in storage at the National Museum of the United States Navy in Washington, D.C., rusted, overlooked. Most visitors walk past without noticing. The placard mentions the weapon's success rate. It doesn't mention England. It doesn't mention Pendleton. It doesn't mention the 12 days that proved the system worked. After the war, Japanese records confirmed everything 16 RO or 100, 6 RO 104, RO 116, RO 108, RO 105. Each final position matched England's attack coordinates exactly. 335 sailors confirmed dead. The Japanese never fully understood what had killed them so quickly. The British developed Hedgehog. The Americans refined it. England proved it. But history remembers carriers, battleships, and the giants of the sea. Destroyer escorts were different, cheap, expendable, easy to replace. 700 were built during the war. Most were scrapped within 5 years. England lasted barely 2.5 years after the war ended. The ship that sank 6 submarines in 12 days wasn't even worth the steel she was made from. If this story moved, you take a second, hit like so, more people can discover it. Subscribe and stay with us as we bring forgotten stories back to life. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from: Texas, Germany, Australia, the United States, or anywhere else. And if someone in your family served, tell us their story. Because you're not just watching, you're helping make sure USS England and her crew are never forgotten.